Hey everybody, welcome to another good e-reader video review. My name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Today we are going to check out the Sony PRS-T3. This is the latest generation e-reader from Sony. It actually is not officially on the market until about next week, so you're getting a special preview here. You can check out the full box. It does come, at least in Canada, with a $10 gift card that you could use for ebooks, magazines, newspapers, and a myriad of content. You can see here that there's a case on that. Why don't you tell us what that's all about?
This case is it's the stock case. It's a sleep cover. You can see that when we close it, and then when we open it, it goes from its sleep mode to its activating, its running mode here, which is non-standby. It's a very nice, I'll show you guys, very nice suede-ish type feel to the inside. It has a groove here for all the buttons to not get mashed, and it has an embossed Sony logo.
But no light.
No light. When this was announced, they said this device would be bundled with a case with a light on it that comes up here. That is not the case, no pun intended. This device is $129.99 Canadian. The case sleep cover comes with it. The sleep cover with the light is actually $50 extra, making this device after taxes in Canada about $210. So,
but Sony has confirmed that the case with the light actually is not even going to be available until the end of October.
Yeah, exactly. So it does not come bundled with it as of September 2013. It's going to ship out in October. You can take the battery backing off, or I guess just the backing in this case, with these little snaps, so that comes right off, and the case is attached to that, and you can't take the case off. So when you buy the new case with the light, it'll come with the backing as well. You can see there's the micro USB port on there.
You mean SD?
Sorry, yes, micro SD. Thank you. And there's the battery located under this film, but you don't want to touch that, and it is not removable easily.
Yeah, that's weird that Sony's locked you into that case, because you could see this. You're not supposed to hold it or be like this.
No, but you're supposed to get in here eventually because the SD card slot's there. So for the remainder of this review, however, we're going to leave this off so we don't get any angled viewing. So that's why we're going to leave the case off if you're questioning that.
Okay, let's give you some specs. It's 6 inches. It's using e-ink Pearl with the HD version. You have 1024 by 758 pixels. It has a 1 gigahertz processor in conjunction with 512 MB of RAM. When we've cranked this out of the box for the first time with the operating system, which is Android, and all the preloaded apps and books, you have about 1.2 gigs of space, and you could throw an SD card in there like we showed you. It supports up to 32 gigs, and you have a 2-month battery life on it. So this is not a front-lit e-reader. Like the Kindle Paperwhite, the Kobo Aura. It's not an illuminated display. Sony has been fairly resistive to going in this route. I think it's time to take a look at the software. Okay, so this is your main home screen here. As you can see, it has the recently added titles. We have some books that we loaded on ourselves, such as PDFs and things like that. And you have whatever book that you have been reading up to this point we'll have here. You'll see your bookshelves, the reader store, and applications. So we'll just click on applications. You can see here the public library is basically Overdrive. You only see this on your device if you live in an Overdrive supported country. So Australia, Canada, the US, Ireland, and the UK are the primary markets right now. And you can think of it as a web link. So it's not an actual app. You just simply click on it, and then you're pretty well redirected to like the web browser, Sony's own version. So Sony is more or less like skinned this to be fairly applicable to e-readers. You just simply, enter your state, province, and zip code to give you all of the libraries listed. Of course, you have to have a 4-digit PIN code and a library card to borrow books. You do have a web browser. We'll show you that at the very end. Periodicals is where your newspapers and magazines are at, and we've purchased something from there, but we'll show you the whole reading experience shortly. These are your notes. You have your dictionary support here. Okay. And then you see here that you can change the dictionary
Comes bundled with about 4 different language options on there. So you have Spanish, French, a couple different types of French actually. You have Canadian French, you see Hachette French, so it's not too bad.
So this is because we live in Canada, but we know that in a lot of other countries, they'll have different...
Obviously, if you live in Japan, they'll have Japanese to English and so forth.
Right. All right, so this e-reader does not come with a stylus. You actually have to buy it separately from Sony. Luckily, we have a stylus from a previous Sony e-reader here. And we'll just show you quickly how the handwriting app works.
So we can click on New. And obviously you don't have many settings, but you do have your pen and eraser. And yes, it works with your finger as well. And you can go erase. And the erase isn't touch specific. For example, if you touch anywhere on the R, it's going to go away, anywhere on the E, T, and so forth, because it would take a very long time to scrub out everything.
You could screenshot the app, so or whatever you draw, so it'll allow you to save and export it to your computer. Not only can you write notes via this app, but you can also write notes on PDFs and things like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you have text memos, you could have pictures there in JPEG, GIF formats, things like that. You have your main options here. So you can see some of the details here. Not a whole lot of settings or anything like that here, so you're not going to be too overwhelmed. There are no firmware updates here, but you're not going to really find yourself playing in the settings menu too much. There really isn't a lot here for you to do once your Wi-Fi and everything's set up. You do have Facebook and Evernote. It's pretty well, these are just set up, so you click here, you link your account, and then when you're actually in an ebook or any type of text, you can send that text to either your Facebook via status update or to Evernote. I think next, Peter, let's take a look at the overall reading experience.
We'll click on a book that came preloaded, and we won't use the stylus for this. So you can turn pages by swiping. Doesn't support tap to turn pages.
But it does have page turn buttons here.
Absolutely. One of the few e-readers left that actually has page turn buttons.
Totally.
Should note that. We have, we'll show you here first, if you double tap or long press, nothing shows up in terms of font styles or anything like that, so that's all located here on the More or right click button, if you will. You have Navigate Page, that's pretty self-explanatory. Notes is anything you've taken note of or highlights, so they'll show up in here. We also have Font, very simple. Everything changes live. And you only have
it takes a few seconds for it to show up.
Right. You have not so conventional styles of text. You don't have, we usually see Times New Roman, Comic Sans, Arial. You don't really see any of those here. You see these kind of strange ones, like really number 2.
Yeah, what exactly is
I don't think
really
I've ever heard of that before. I've heard of Verdana, but
it's same.
Let's choose really number 2 for this. Okay, well that's not too bad. We also have Customize View. A couple of useless settings in here. Right now we're on page mode, so we'll go to Crop Page. And we have a manual crop page option, which we'll show you. It's very weird. You can actually move these anchors to crop a certain range. Click Done, and you'll be constantly zoomed into the bottom left corner of the book for the remainder of the book, which is really weird. Unless something is on the bottom left every single page, this is not going to benefit you. So
I don't suggest using Customized View. I mean, I could see it being applicable for maybe like pictures or maybe like PDFs that just aren't formatted correctly, but you really don't want to use it for like your day-to-day ebook.
Exactly. Now this is something Sony is really good with. You have a lot of more technical options here. You have saturated text styles, details. That's kind of weird. It works better with images and PDFs and all that. You can make things brighter, darker, or you can actually customize it to change contrast and brightness. So pretty cool that you have all these options even in an ebook. So you can change everything step by step, or you can use the slider bars, or you can just restore it to defaults. So
I like the restore button in case you mess up.
Yeah. And you have handwriting, so you can write on there.
Yeah, this is good if you know, instead of holding down and doing highlights and annotations and stuff like that, you can simply underline a word.
Right.
But just so you guys know, if you do make any edits, you can't save those edits to export the book.
No, you won't be able to do that like on the Icarus line of e-readers, which is really cool. You can actually save whatever you wrote into a separate file, store it on your internal storage, and then you can trade it with people.
Yeah, so we tested it. It just doesn't let you do that, which is kind of sucks.
Right.
But at least whatever edits that you do are on your device. So.
Right. So we have highlights. We have notes. You can do dictionary lookup, and you have send to, and this will be your Evernote and Facebook. So if you choose send to Facebook, you'll bring up this, and then you can type something and post it to Facebook. So it's pretty simple. Once you've gone through what Michael showed you earlier, those two setup options, Facebook setup and Evernote setup, you can then send things to Facebook on the fly.
All right. So this is the main ebook experience, and I kind of dig the fact that it has manual page turn buttons, because you could actually hold this in one hand while you're on the tube or on the bus or whatever, and just turn pages like this. So you can hold it as Peter's holding it here.
Instead of having to jerry-rig it with your pinky and make sure it doesn't fall off.
So I do dig the fact that Sony is pretty well the only e-reader company that actually sells physical buttons, and they haven't gone the way of total just on-screen navigation. Before we show you the PDF experience, I just wanted to point out the Reader Store, because this is where you're going to find yourself more often. It may look a little bit different depending on your geographical region, but most of the website will look the same. You can think of it in effect as this is, again, a skinned experience that's tailored towards e-readers, but in essence you are just accessing the internet.
And you will have to sign up with a Reader Store account or use your existing account. So you can see that we have our regular genres here, and if you go to more, this is where you'll find your coming soons. You'll find your magazines and newspapers and read-alongs and all the different things under more.
Actually, coming soon, this is something that Sony just put in within this last month. They just actually put in a pre-order system, and it's surprising that Sony has had an ebook store for like 3 years now or so, and this is like the first time that they've ever added pre-orders.
Right.
So you click on a book, you get the full description. The ratings and reviews are via iDreamBooks instead of Sony's own format. They used to do business with Goodreads for their API to pull ratings, reviews, and things like that. Now they deal with a company called iDreamBooks. So not a lot of books, especially the newer stuff, has a lot of population yet. So you can see that there really isn't very much here, and this is a pretty... This author's released a lot of books, and she's fairly well known, so it's very interesting to note. You could enter gift card coupons, you can enter credit card details. We noticed when we were entering our credit card details, it actually wasn't the easiest process. We actually had to do it twice.
Yeah, sometimes upon first time activation and use of an e-reader doesn't register things properly, so and especially with an e-reader you have to be patient with typing everything. So we're going to look at a PDF now. And this is the Dungeons & Dragons Monsters Manual, and of course you see there we saved one of our handwritings, and I wasn't trying to draw anything there, it's just mindless scribbles, but this won't save once again.
I thought I saw you spend a good hour on this.
Well, you know, I was trying to get like a dragon going, but no, you won't be able to actually save this as a separate file. It'll just remain here within the file on your reader. So we're going to navigate page to somewhere with some images. We'll let it load here.
And this is roughly about like 160 meg.
Right. Very
book
large.
or so.
All right, here's some text with some images. So we can pinch and zoom, and what we've noticed is that although it's very blurry and unreadable, unlike the new Kobo Aura that is quite readable even while pinching and zooming, this is one of the fastest maneuvering e-readers. Look how fast that is. But then when it comes time to rendering, it takes a couple seconds. But when you have to, you can see there, for full
Started
render,
again.
it was about 8 seconds. But if you need to actually maneuver, it's very quick. It's lightning quick. But then unfortunately you have to let it render, get rid of the little mini map there.
So prior models of Sony really didn't even allow you to pinch and zoom.
Yes, some of them, the earlier ones like the 650 and 350, yeah, no, it was really only till the T line that they actually allowed you to pinch and zoom and maneuver around, and especially you can actually lift your finger up and still catch the zoom, which a lot of rereaders, even good ones like the Paperwhite, don't allow you to do that. So little things like that that really
I
make a
actually
difference.
see that you have
Yeah, little mini map there.
yeah, so they
Gives you an
borrowed that
indication.
from Kobo.
Right. Now, unfortunately, once we let this render here, I think might be done. You can't actually press and hold to make notes. It actually just initiates your kind of maneuvering.
So you have to use the stylus.
Right. So you would have to go into here and click notes, and then you would see all your notes that you've made here, which are your handwritings. They wouldn't be any physical highlights you'd be able to make. So you can just go like this and say, wow, this is number 1, and then you can get out of that and then click on your notes, and then they'll be stored there, and you can see that even if we go back, oh, it has to save the note.
Okay, in the past, Sony's done reflow very well. There's often been, instead of just pinching and zooming, there's been reflow options.
Right.
Let's check that out.
So we'll go once again to customize view, and we can go to page mode, and this gives you all these options: 3-column split, 2-column split, and so forth. So because this already is kind of 2-column, I guess it didn't register there. But we have, oh, there we go, it did. We just needed to let it render. So you can see it's now hugging the top right, and then it goes to the bottom left, then it goes to the middle. So as you swipe, it's going like this.
Yeah, so this is the sort of thing where you need to find the sweet spot.
Right.
Not all PDFs will look the same, so you kind of have to fiddle around with it until you do it properly.
And this is the fit landscape. So it's going to then turn into a landscape mode.
Right, so this e-reader doesn't have an accelerometer gyroscope like most e-readers. They're totally software driven in being able to go from landscape to portrait, so that's just something to bear in mind. But you can do that both with PDF files and ebooks as well,
right.
Which is good for some sort of mangas. As you saw, the Sony store actually has comics, graphic novels, manga, magazines, newspapers, and things like that. So some content may just look better in landscape mode, so this option does allow you to do that.
And if you saw what I did there, also orientation will give you landscape and portrait options as well. And once again, you can utilize your crop page. We're not going to show you again, but you can crop the page to your liking, so that is another way you can kind of cater the experience. But honestly, if you pinch and zoom and then travel over to what you want to look at, it should be enough to really get you without reflowing everything around.
But if you turn a page, is it maintained?
You're actually just moving it over to the side, so you'd need to double tap out.
Well, let's zoom in on something, just as a test, and then hit the page. So it does. Or does it?
It's really just getting confused, if anything.
Yeah, I think once you zoom in and then hit the page turn button, what you're doing is like moving it this way within a document.
Right, you're really just hitting the edge of the mini-map here, the screen, and then it does have a lot of rendering issues, as you can see.
Yeah, I can see this as being a little bit overly complicated if you, say, find that zooming sweet spot and then you want to turn pages.
It's just turning pages at random now. I would say just stick to pinching and zooming to be safe.
Yeah. Finally, we'll look at your bookshelves.
So this is everything you've added, recently added, or what you have on your storage.
Sort by. So you have some sorting options. Sort by pictures, like with the cover art, or just text. If you have a lot of ebooks, you can look. It's a good time to look at the keyboard.
It's a pretty nice keyboard.
I like it. It's high contrast. The keys and the border lining the keys is very defined, and I find that this keyboard is actually fairly easy to type on.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it got everything I needed to say there. You have your number row under alternative, and you have a second alternative menu as well for weird characters like GBPs.
I approve of this message.
Yes, it is. Everyone take a snapshot of that.
All right, so we've looked at the Sony e-reader. The last thing that we have to do is, just kind of show you some of the ports here. As you can see, this is like where you would plug it in to your computer, as well as charge the device. It's your power/standby button.
Your fail-safe reset. If all else fails, put a pin in there, and it should reset that for you. The rest of e-reader is actually pretty clean, and they've hidden the micro SD card in the back, which is actually a really good idea because then it cuts down on having a big hole in the side of the device. So now you'll notice that Mike just dropped down the top, and what does that look like, everybody? It looks like Android. Now, this doesn't actually support downloading or installing APKs. We have tried it on the web browser, which we're going to show you now, but it will not actually download the APK. It'll say it's an unsupported file format, and it certainly will not allow you to install the APK, unlike a Barnes & Noble Nook Simple Touch will allow you to do. So
yeah, so obviously it's only a matter of time before someone roots this device and allows you to put in like the Kindle app or the Nook app or the Kobo app. It usually takes like a good month or so when a device actually hits the streets for them to do it. It's happened with all prior models of Sony, so you don't have anything to worry about. Web browsing experience is the last thing that we want to finish off this review with.
We're going to maneuver around once our banner shows up to show that a lot of our images have loaded.
Yeah, I mean, e-readers in general, not too indicative to a solid web browsing experience. I find that most of the time it's slow, it's sluggish. E-readers just aren't designed to surf the web. But there are times when you may want to check out RSS feeds or certain apps like Pocket or Feedly and stuff like that, or to use like the web versions of Pulse Reader and stuff like that. So you can see it's kind of slow. The text is really small.
One credit I'll give to Sony is that they call their web browser a web browser. They don't call it beta. They don't call it experimental. They don't hide it under some weird workaround backdoor entry. It's actually a web browser, which is pretty much the only credit I'll give Sony for their web browser. Otherwise, it's not too enjoyable. There, things are finally loading up now. We have simple things like orientation, stop, forward. You can make multiple tabs, so you can run multiple web browsing tabs on there. You have things like block pop-up windows, which I agree with on an e-reader. I would block all pop-up windows. Yeah,
but you could enable and disable like images. So say if on our website has so many images and you just want to strip them away and just load the text, you can hit that.
Right.
But you see that there's a lot of options here. Everything from changing like the home page.
We have clear cache, clear history. That's all useful stuff if your pages aren't loading properly.
Yeah, a lot of e-readers, they're
simplistic. They don't have all this.
They don't have anything close to this. They're just very bare bones. So I do like the fact that you can strip away all the images. It's fairly solid. All in all, I think that this is a very interesting device. It certainly does not reinvent the wheel. You can think of this as just an upgraded T2. The addition of a sleep cover is cool. I find overall that the EPUB reading aspect is fairly solid. It's Sony's kind of lost their way, I think.
Totally.
They haven't. They're really behind the times in terms of no front light, not really listening to their customer base on what they want out of an e-reader. And I just feel that Sony, they used to release 3 e-readers a year for 3 or 4 years in a row.
I remember, yeah.
And then they went to 1, and now when they have an e-reader, they don't even send out press releases anymore.
No. Yeah, I'd say calling this interesting or unique is putting it right on the money. This is their 3rd generation of the T line of their e-readers, T1, T2, T3. They still don't have a backlight. They could have put a front light on the T2 because the Barnes & Noble had already been out since then, but they didn't. They didn't put one on the T3. They didn't even load the light on with the bundled case. It's just a sleep cover, and they make you buy a $50 case afterwards. I don't see where they're going with where they're going with their e-readers, but I totally agree that they've lost their way with this.
All right, so I would probably recommend this e-reader to someone who is new to e-readers and wants one that's highly available. If Sony does anything well, is put e-readers in a lot of hands.
Right.
They have, distribution agreements with almost every large electronic chain. You can pretty well get this easier than you can, say, like most other e-readers on the market. I mean, we live in Canada, and finding an e-reader in a retail setting is not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's fairly easy to find Sony e-readers just because it's Sony.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. So you've heard our perspectives and opinions on the new T3. Let's hear yours. Drop a comment on this video and we'll address everybody. If you have any ideas for future videos involving the Sony PRS-T3, kindly let us know. And this has been a review of the T3 e-reader by Sony. For goodereader.com, my name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Everybody take care.